Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Straight Talking Leadership with me, Chris Pankowski. Today, my guest is Sonny Roche. We're going to be talking about leadership. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. But first, I'm going to give him a quick introduction. So, Sonny, 24 years old, born and raised in Pennsylvania, like just outside Philadelphia. If you don't know already, I'm a Philly guy, so the accent tends to give it away. Sonny is a full-time jiu-jitsu athlete. He's also a coach and an instructor for jiu-jitsu classes for both kids and adults. He's also the owner and operator of Roche Fitness. It's an online nutrition coaching service. He's helping men of all ages to get real and long-term results with their health and wellness. Sonny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate you bringing me on here, man.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show. So before we get into a conversation about leadership, one thing that I always like to do is a warm-up that I call the Mad Minute. Basically, it's a couple questions that have nothing to do with leadership, but it's just to warm us up, get that gray matter going in between our ears. Cool. You ready for the Mad Minute?
Let's run it.
All right. So question number one, you're given the choice of a superpower. You can pick only one. It's to be able to see crystal clear in the pitch black so you can see in the dark with no lights or anything, or you can breathe underwater. Which one do you pick?
Dude, I'm doing breathe underwater because here's the thing. Breathe underwater is absolutely insane. So imagine you can just go down there for a long period of time and just like, you don't need any scuba. You don't need any like anything intruding on your vision. You can just like go down there, look at all the fish, dude. And like, can you like go down as deep as possible? Or is there like,
yeah, you can, like you're a fish. You can breathe underwater.
I'm choosing breathe underwater any day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I rationalize saying I'd like to be able to see in the dark because I spend more time like on solid surfaces than in the water. But if I can see in the dark, I can use a scuba tank to go underwater and still see what's going on.
Yeah, you got a point. Once you get to a certain depth, it's just pitch black.
Right.
So that'd be pretty freaky. There's some crazy animals down there.
Yeah, for sure. Like scary stuff at the bottom of the ocean. All right, question number 2. You've got access to a time machine for 24 hours. Do you choose to go back to some point in history and spend 24 hours, or do you go check out the future for 24 hours?
Dude, that's a scary one, actually. Man, I feel like, I'm going in the past. I'm too scared to go in the future. I'm going to be honest with you. Because here's the thing, like, what if, like, I go into the future and I found that, like, I don't know, one of my family members is dead 5 years in advance. Like, that would suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going back in the past. I'm going to go experience, like, the 70s or something.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely go back in time. I don't want to know what the future looks like. I just want to go back and kind of experience like a point in history. Like personally, I'd probably go back to like revolutionary times and see what it was like in Philly, 1776, when we're declaring our freedom. That's probably the time I'd go back to.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. 24 hours, go hang out with Ben Franklin. That would be pretty sweet.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah. So, all right, Sonny, thanks for playing along. I always just like to do a warm up with the Mad Minute. Most of my guests in the past have been people that have already gone through their career. They've been on that leadership journey, and the conversations were more about, all right, what are you telling people that are like on the upswing, that are up and coming as leaders? But you're the second person who is kind of new in their career, right? You're just getting started, even though you've had your business, you've been looking at other things, but you're in the grand scheme of things early in your career. So first thing I want to find out from you is, who is someone that you admire as a leader? Who do you try to kind of model things after?
Oh, dude, you already know the answer to this one. Are you kidding me? Man, you already know it's my man Andy Priscilla. You already know that's the answer. You didn't even have to ask that. Dude, it's Andy Priscilla. Straight up, 100%.
So what is it about Andy? And I mean, yeah, obviously, you and I are both followers of Andy.
You're the one that got me into him.
Did I really get you into him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're the one that told me about him.
Okay.
Dude, it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's because I'm not at Ho. I share the show.
That's right.
So, yeah, so you and I both kind of admire what he's done, what he stands for, but what is it from your perspective that you look at Andy and say, man, I admire him. I want to model things after him for like X reasons?
So first off, he's very transformational, I would say. Like, me and him both have, like, I kind of model a lot of my stuff off of him. I get a lot of inspiration. Like, I love the way he talks. I love the way he tries to, like, transform his team, transform his message, and just give it to the world. That's what I love about that. He does such a good job of doing so, but he does it, like, in a way that's like, it's Andy Priscilla. You know what I mean? It's not like anybody else. You can't really compare him to anybody else. That's what I love about him. He's just himself. He's straight up. He's like, I'm this dude. I'm this ruggedy dude from Missouri. Like, I started this business. Like, it took me years and years. Like, he's straight up. I love that. He's very motivational, very transformational. I think those are the two words to really describe the man.
Okay. I would agree with that. And I also like how Andy is, I don't think anyone would question who he is. Like, he's authentic. You know what you're getting into if you're to meet him in the, on the streets or have a conversation with him. You can assume that he's going to give it to you straight. He's not going to pull any punches, and you're going to walk away with value, knowing that he's going to give you feedback so that you can be better. It's not to make him feel better. Like, he's got no reason to have to tell you something to feel better about himself. It's like, hey, all right, you got a question about business? I'm going to give you the straight up answer or my opinion, and it's for you. It's not for me.
Absolutely. And I love how he doesn't, like, he doesn't make anything complex. He gives it's very simple answers. He's like, you want to get good at something? You do it.
Right.
Stuff like that, which I love, because I can't understand complex answers. I don't know about you. I'm not that guy to understand all that crazy stuff. You know what I mean? I love it straight up. It's simple. That's what I love about him.
That's one of the reasons that the name of this show is Straight Talking Leadership, because I like to be able to talk as if anyone can understand me, right? I don't want to have to limit my audience to some people that have a PhD from some Ivy League school. Like, I want to be able to get the word out so that no matter what your educational level is, no matter what you're doing in life, you can take away some nuggets of information and help you be a better leader. And, that's who I am. I grew up in a blue collar family. I've got an Ivy League degree, and a lot of people don't know that because I don't come across that way. And, it's not who I am.
Absolutely.
So, what, Andy aside, what do you think are really essential skills that leaders need to have in order to be successful? Traits and skills.
Traits and skills. Okay, cool. So, a few traits and skills that I would say would make a leader very, very good is, number one, I would say I would say having empathy is a really good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like a lot of leaders, they try to lead with the iron fist. Can be good at some points, you know what I mean? But being a very empathetic person, making sure that you can really evaluate and look at other people's feelings, right? And kind of read the room, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And especially like in the field that I'm in, with teaching children, with and plus nutritional services. It's a very sensitive topic to a lot of people. Okay, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very sensitive. They're very self-conscious about themselves.
Yep.
And being empathetic and telling them, hey, I completely understand where you're coming from. I know why you feel this way, and you're allowed to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Not like some sort of soft, weird thing, but just being, man to man. Hey, you're allowed to feel that way. I know why you feel that way. Let's take care of this. Let's create some actions and, resolve the issue for whatever it is, So I'd say empathy is definitely a huge trait/skill to have, as a leader. Another one is just basic listening skills, making sure that you can actually listen to your employees or your employer if you're on that end of the spectrum, or
Mm-hmm.
listening to your clients, just being able to kind of just shut up for a little bit and just listen, because that's what you're dealing with pretty much most of the time. You're listening to other people as the leader. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then you tend to make the final decision, based on, who's the most convincing / what makes the most sense, So listening is, I would rate that probably number one or number two, right? Because if you can't listen, if you can't just understand what other people are saying, you're probably going to fail
Yep.
straight up.
Yep.
So I would rate that number two is listening. A third one, not really sure a third one, but I would rate those top two in my book.
Okay. It's interesting that you bring those up because, for me in my business, I work on what's called the 5 principles of high impact leadership. And that's what I coach people and companies around. It's the leadership development philosophy that I've created. But principle number 1 is communicate for clarity. And it's understanding that communication is a two-way street. It's how you give and receive information, right? And the thing that I always talk about is like big ears, small mouth when you're a leader. You have to listen to your people. You have to understand what they're saying, ask the right questions, and then be able to put it into action. So, and then the 4th principle is conviction and caring. So that's like you as a leader, you're setting the standards, you're understanding what the goals are, you're convicted behind your core values, but you care about your people, right? You're empathetic towards your people because really what your job is as a leader is to help your people to be the best that they can be. So when you can relate to them, when you can care about them in a genuine way, it really helps to bring them along the journey and be a partner with you as opposed to you having to pull them and, not paying attention to their needs. So it's cool that you brought up 2 of those principles that I talk about in leadership a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just from I listen to a lot of guys. I try to take as much advice as possible from the top people. And what I see that runs their large companies are those 2 things.
Yep.
I see that a lot of places fail because, I'll hear, ex-employees come back and be like, yeah, that guy, he was a terrible person. He didn't listen to any of our needs. They didn't take responsibility. We just felt like we weren't cared for. And
Right.
that is one of the biggest things for me. I want to make sure that everybody is cared for and make them feel like that they have a voice. Because I love the saying that people will work for money, but die for recognition. That's one of my favorite sayings.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Now, and you don't have to use any names, but Have you ever worked for a bad boss?
Yes.
What made that person bad?
The biggest thing that drove me away from the company was gossip and drama, which
Okay.
is super weird to me. I'm not like coming from like kind of like a blue collar background. I never experienced that until I went to this one place and I experienced that and I was like, what the heck is this? And I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore because it was really immature. I immediately left.
Okay. And what about the other side of the coin? Like, have you ever worked for someone who was just a fantastic boss?
Absolutely.
And what made them a fantastic boss?
What made them a fantastic boss was, number one, he was very skillful, right? Very knowledgeable, very skillful, which is amazing, right? So as a young person, that is exactly who I want to work for to, gain skills.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Number two, he was willing to actually teach me. There's a lot of people that have a lot of skills, but they don't care about actually teaching, or they're not good at teaching you. Okay. And another thing was he was very personable, very personal, again, very empathetic. He
Okay.
helped me through much more than just the task on hand when I was at work. He helped me through many other different things, through, things outside of work, which, a lot of stuff happens and it can be confusing as, I was like probably 17, 18 when I
Okay.
worked under him, right? All the way up to like 20, 21 years old. So, those ages you're learning a lot and there's a lot of confusion, and he helped me a lot through there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's talk a little bit about you. Like, you're a young guy. I know you're motivated. I know you're hungry. What got you to where you are now? Like, I've seen a transformation in you over the years that I've known you, but talk a little bit about, hey, where was I like 4 or 5 years ago, and versus where I am now, and where I want to be in another 5 years from now.
Gotcha. Excellent question. So 5 years ago, where was I? I was, what was I? That'd be like 19 years old, right?
Mhm.
19, 20, about 24 years old right now. So at that time, where was I? I believe I was doing carpentry or I was either in the food industry. Either one, right? That's what I did my whole life, carpentry or food industry.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. You know what I mean? But I always had a love for Jiu Jitsu. I've always had a love for helping people, but I didn't know which way I wanted to help people. So, food
Mhm.
industry, you help people eat, that's cool,
Right.
right? But it's a tough industry.
Yeah.
Straight up. It's
Yes.
very, very tough. I would actually rate it tougher than construction. Not a lot of people won't agree with that. But a lot of times in construction, when you work for somebody, it's like, okay, you go in, you usually get out on time and whatnot. It's pretty good pay. The food industry, it's long hours every single day, 14-hour shifts every single day or 13-hour shifts. Pays not that great. It's very stressful. There's, you know, employing people, and it's a nightmare.
Mhm.
Very tough. So, I was working full time and I was doing jiu-jitsu, just like after work, and I always loved it. I loved it so much. And I was like, man, I would love if I could just like do jiu-jitsu, full time. That'd be amazing. Everyone around me was just like, you can't do that. That's impossible. I was like, is it though?
Right.
So I started looking at examples of people that made a living through there, like, the top guys like Gordon Ryan and Gary Tony and all those guys. I'm like,
Mhm.
how are they doing this? And I looked at them. I looked at what they did during when they were my age.
Okay.
And they were just training all the time. And they risked a lot. And they drove everywhere. And they drove hours and hours to New York and Jersey and whatnot. And did everything they could to get quality training. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do that. So eventually, I think around when I was about 22, 23, right? I started Ubering. I was just like, well, I can do Uber and then I can train in the morning and the night. Aha. So I started doing that. And it was much harder than I thought, right? Because you have slow days, you have, more heavier days with Uber and Grubhub and all those third party, driver apps. And, I was training in the morning, 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock. And I was training at night around like 7:30, right? And I did that for about a year and a half and whatnot. Constantly picking up like odd jobs, I would pick up some carpentry shifts, some side jobs and whatnot. And I was getting by just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, right, I started doing a lot of private lessons. At first, it was very slow. I had one person, 2 people, 3 people, sometimes 0 people a week. I was like, oh, how the heck am I going to get by with, 1, 2, 3 people a week? Like, this isn't going to work. Eventually, I got a little more aggressive. I was like, okay, how can I get more people? And here's the issue that I found out, right? I found out that I'm trying to sell a service, right? Which is important, rather than like trying to build a friendship, build a relationship. I was trying to sell a product instead of actually trying to make a friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found out. That was my weak spot. So eventually, I started just being natural with people, just talking to people every single day, creating relationships, getting, telling people like, hey, I do this. Hey, I do that. Hey, I do jiu-jitsu. You should really jump in. This would be awesome for you. Eventually, once I found that relationship building and just talking to people on a daily basis, talking to the cashier, talking to people in the grocery store, talking to people in the gym. Eventually, I started to build a clientele. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually working out. And then eventually I started to get, 3 clients, 4 clients, 5 clients. And then I'm working my way up on to 9, 10, 11 clients. Then I have bi-weekly clients, weekly clients, people doing twice a week, 3 times a week, once a week. I was like, this is working. I was like, oh my gosh. And I think the biggest thing that really made me take that jump, right, is to go from like, 1, 2 people a week to like working with 9, 10 people a week. And a lot of those people are doing twice a week with me, right? So in reality, it's like 20 something sessions you'd be looking at. It was definitely my aggression, right? Being a lot more aggressive. Because I was, just kind of being nice, putting it out there, pulling my stories, whatnot. That's not enough. I got to actually go out. I actually have to talk to people. I actually have to make real relationships with people and show them that I care about them. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but I had to upgrade my experience with my actual service, being very personal, more of a personalized program with them, making sure that they're getting as much value as possible. And if they go anywhere else, they're not going to get as much value as if they go through me. You know what I mean? So, that was, long story short, pretty much for, getting to like my jiu-jitsu training service up and running. You know what I mean? And of course, I have like my nutritional service, which I'm still trying to build up right now. But we got a good amount of clients within these past couple months.
And where do you see the next 5 years for you?
Next 5 years are going to be absolutely amazing, Chris.
Awesome. I love it.
I'm not allowed to go down. I only have the opportunity to keep going up. All right. Yep. I won't allow myself to go down, because now I actually acquired the skills to start to see what actually works. What should I invest my time in? Within these next 5 years, I plan on doing a lot, right? So within next maybe 3-4 years, I would love to have my own gym. I think that'd be amazing. Okay. Where am I going to have this gym? I have no clue. I don't really want to have it around here, since so many of my friends, as you know, so many of my really good friends and coaches, they have gyms around here. I'm not going to mess with that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Looking towards like, maybe like an hour away or something, if I'm still living in PA and whatnot, which I think I will.
Okay.
So definitely my own jiu-jitsu gym. That's one of the top priorities, just so I can deliver top quality jiu-jitsu service and really like scale that out a lot more from those skills I've been developing over the course of, 6 years. Also with that, I plan on really scaling out my nutritional services, right? I'm only like a year into, developing Roche Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
So I plan on hopefully, right? And I really think I will be able to help by then, 5 years from now. I think that I'll have different forms. Because right now with the nutritional service, I only have one service, right? You go through the app, that's done. You get a weekly assessment. I want to open up more opportunities for people, such as, they can pay like a bigger premium to get even more service from me, and have like three levels to that, or just like two, keeping it simple.
Yep.
So hopefully I can help by then 200, 300 people, as many people as possible, because I absolutely love giving men their life back, with their health and wellness. So that's like business side of things,
Okay.
and then we can obviously go into like relationship side of things, family side of things, a whole lot there.
Yeah. If you want to go down that road, let's talk about it. I mean, me, I got 3 boys. I've been married. This year will be 24 years that my wife and I have been married. And hey, I talk about my kids. I talk about that stuff. Like, to me, that's part of my life, right? And it's part of my journey. So we can go down that road, or we can keep talking business and leadership.
Yeah, let's run it, dude.
Let's go.
Relationships are so important. People don't even realize how important your relationships are for your business.
Yes.
Like, as soon as I got myself like an amazing woman in my life, like everything has changed. Everything.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
It's incredible. I feel like not enough people talk about that. Every now and then people be like, "Oh, you got to surround yourself with the best 5 people." I'm like, okay,
right.
But not a lot of people talk about your significant other. It's like, it's so important. Like, that's the person you're literally talking to every single day, and then they can either pull you down or push you.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've had both situations. So I felt the best of both worlds. I felt complete surrounded, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And now this time around, it's like, push. Come on, I believe in you. You got this. Mm-hmm. That goes such a long way.
It does. So my wife and I are very similar in the sense of, like, neither one of us are mushy. We're not like big on like compliments for no reason, right? Like, words matter.
Yeah.
When you use certain words, it has to matter. But like with my current business, she's not the cheerleader, but she drops those things. Like, she will tell me, I support you. I believe this is going to be your best year ever. Yeah. And dude, we've been through like the whole gamut of everything, in 24 years being married, 28 years being together. Like, she has seen it all with me. But you're right. Having the right partner to be strong in those times that you're doubting yourself, because that absolutely fucking happens. Like, when you're shooting for things and you don't hit the mark, like, it's easy for us to get tough on ourselves and say, like, I could have done better. I should have done X. I could have done whatever. And then to have that partner say, okay, but what did we learn from it? So that next time you don't make that same mistake, or, you've actually done better than you thought you were doing. But yeah, it's, if that person's negative, that drags you down and can pull you in a totally different direction. So yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's just like, it's crazy how someone's negativity can just drag you down that much.
Yeah.
You could be doing the best job in the world. You could have the best possible quarter, best possible year of your whole entire life. They'll still be like, but like, what's, you know, like, does this even matter? Is like, what if it doesn't work out? Just completely like down and just that negative energy. And sometimes it gets to your head and you're like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
It's better to have that person to say, hey, what if it does work out?
Right.
Even if this happens, you can still get through it.
Yeah.
Those are amazing words to use.
That's right. I totally agree. And so I want to flip this into something that you've really gotten into over the past few years is teaching kids jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
How did that happen? And why do you continue to do it?
So about 2-3 years ago, the kids program at our school, they needed help, right? And they said they had the class. The main instructor was just like, hey, we need, if anyone wants to volunteer to help with the kids program, we would really appreciate it, because the kids are a lot to take care of. It requires 2-3 people at sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And so I did. Right in the beginning, it was it kind of looked like a different format in the beginning. It's kind of funny how it evolutionized to what it is now. But I would take care of the little kids, and then the other instructor, Pat, right, which he was on here, a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
He would take care of the teenagers. And at the time, we had, a good amount of teenagers and a good amount of little kids, right? Oh my gosh. And so I will never forget my first class. I'll never forget that. I didn't know what I was walking into. Just be honest with you. I'll never forget that. I walk in, there was like tons of little kids.
Yeah.
Like, teach them a little something, something. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely terrible. I'll get like embarrassed just by thinking about it. I had like no control of the kids. They were like yelling. I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
From there, I was just like, I don't want to do this. But something was telling me, I don't know what it is. I have no clue, but my conscience was telling me, just give it another shot. And so I did. And I kept going.
Okay.
Second class sucked. Third class sucked. Fourth class was a little bit better. Fifth class was a little bit better. It was just getting those reps and reps and reps. And then I'm like, oh man, there's a technique to actually controlling all these kids.
Yep.
So I started developing like little techniques, right? And I started to really like look into how to work with kids, reading books, reading articles, how their brains work, right? When I get into something, I pretty much go all in on it, right? I want to know the ins and outs. And so I started learning a lot of techniques to really start to get their attention, and the best ways that children learn compared to adults, because it is a little different.
Yeah.
Not much different, but a little bit different. So, I would do that every Tuesday and every Thursday and Friday. Yeah. I forget what the schedule was in the beginning. I think I only did Tuesday and Thursday. Now I do Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at the gym. And from there, it kind of evolved into, we've both grown the kids program exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the beginning, sometimes we would walk in and we would only have like 3-4 kids. And then over the course of 2 and 3 years, right? Average class is about, we'll have at minimum pretty much like 10 kids.
Okay.
I believe there's over 50 kids in the program now, which is a fair amount and a good,
yeah.
That evolved a lot from like barely anything, So it's kind of evolved into like our classes are like mixed together now. Just because we're in like a weird era where it's just like there's not a lot of teenagers, but like the little kids are like growing close to there. It's in an interesting spot right now. So But I mean, I absolutely love it. The reason I still do it is because I absolutely love them kids and I adore them and I want to be there for them and watch them grow. So I'm willing to dedicate an hour of my time every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday to show for them kids because, you know, they may or may not look up to me. And if there's one kid that looks up to me, I want to be there for them. And I want to give them quality instruction and a structured program in a safe environment to get away from, maybe their family life isn't the best, or maybe they get bullied in school. They go there and they have a safe environment to go to where it's positive, where it's fun, where they make new friends. That's why I still continue to show up.
What's been the most fulfilling for you about teaching the kids class for the past 2 or 3 years?
Most fulfilling is watching their attitude completely change. I've seen kids walk in there and they are very shelled up. They don't want to talk. They're very shy. They're scared to even do the technique, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times.
Yep.
Even with adults,
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you finally break through that child that they turn into that shy, shelled up person and they start to laugh and they start to have fun and they start to understand it. I think that's the most fulfilling. Just see their overall attitude change, just see them turn into a much happier person whenever they walk into that room.
How cool is it for you when you know that these kids, these students of yours are going to tournaments and they're bringing home medals to the gym?
It's a good feeling. Absolutely. It's, I'm not happy that they got a medal. It's whatever, you can win a tournament. I'm just happy that they're happy. That's it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, tournaments, they're important. It's really cool to have some kids that compete. But overall, the biggest thing is I just want to see them happy that they put themselves out there, that they're gaining that confidence, and they're seeing their hard work pay off. That's what makes me happy.
So you've been all in on jiu-jitsu for a while now. What do you think is the crossover between jiu-jitsu and leadership?
Jiu-jitsu and leadership? Do you mean just like training jiu-jitsu or coaching jiu-jitsu?
Like, what are the similarities?
Similarities? Well, I'll tell you straight up. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the biggest similarity. Jiu-jitsu, there's a whole lot of trial and error. You see what doesn't work very fast. Business. You see what doesn't work very, very fast.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to make changes or invest your time into gaining knowledge about a certain subject or even asking for help, which, in business, some guys, you can be stubborn at times. I've been stubborn plenty of times. And sometimes you gotta be like, you know what? I don't know enough. I'm going to ask someone that knows more than me for a little bit of help. I've done it with you. I've asked you for, a few pieces of advice for business, right? And you asked me for advice for jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And help both of us. So
right.
That's definitely it. Trial and error. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Those are the two biggest similarities.
Okay. One thing that you said earlier, as you were going through this evolution in yourself and your business, was that you would just get out there and talk to people, build relationships.
Yeah.
Is that something that comes natural to you? Is it something that you had to really put your mind to and say, I'm going to go talk to this number of people, strangers, and strike up conversations?
Yeah, it just straight up doesn't come natural to me. I'll say 3-4 years ago, I still am. I'm very, I like to stay in my own bubble. I like to be by myself. I'd rather stay home than go out to a club or a party. That's just the kind of guy I am,
Yep.
Pretty introverted. But it wasn't until I realized that if I want to grow, if I want to make more friends, if I want to change more lives, I actually have to go out and talk to people and do hard things. So I still to this day would make it a priority to go out to places. And I have to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
I have to talk to people. I have to talk to the cashier. I have to talk to that guy that's, in the grocery store that's grabbing a box of Cheerios, and strike a conversation about Cheerios or his shoes or his shirt. Or, I had to force myself to do that. And it wasn't fun at first. But I can tell you straight up, it has overall led me to better conversation skills, right? Which better conversation skills have led me towards more opportunities, a better teacher, building better friendships, just meeting more and more people every single day, which opens up more opportunities to build my network, you know? So another thing that really helped me out, right, is Ubering, right?
Okay.
As you can probably imagine, you get into
Yeah.
an Uber and you talk to the driver. A lot of people want to know who the driver is because your life is in their hands.
Right.
So I would make it a priority that when someone hopped in my car, I have to strike up a conversation with them. And I want to know their name. I want to know who they are. What do you do for work? And make sure that they're in the right hands. That, I would say, that has been a game changer for me, just having like small talk, because you're just getting rep. You do 30, 40 rides in a day.
Yeah.
That's 40 new conversations. That's 40 new potential new friends.
Right.
That's big.
It is. And that's a skill that I think people believe that you're either born with it or not. Like my personality is that I'm an extrovert, or my personality is that I'm an introvert. But it's a skill that you can develop. Like, you can be introverted. You say that you're an introvert. I am as well. But developing that skill to be able to have a conversation with someone that you've never met before, to be able to strike up a conversation, to be able to think on your feet. That's the one thing that I take away, because I've also kind of put myself in that challenge of, I want to go out and talk to X number of strangers every day and, create conversations. But you don't know what those conversations are going to be, right? You don't know that you're going to run into some dude in the market who's wearing a bright red pair of sneakers. You're going to compliment him and it starts a conversation. Like, you don't know where that's going to go. So I also say that going through that exercise for somebody helps you to be able to think on your feet. Like, it helps you to be able to like bob and weave in order to kind of be engaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's been so many times where when I was first starting out, I would just straight up fall on my face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of a few situations, and like I'll straight up get embarrassed, like thinking to myself, like, "Hey, man,"
Yeah.
You're like, "What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Why are you being weird?"
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry. Have a good day. But that's what people need to understand. Don't be afraid to just like fall on your face, because like you're never gonna see that person again.
Right.
More than likely. And if you do, like, who cares?
Right.
Just like, you just got to go out and just do it, and don't expect to be good at something. I think that's like the biggest thing that people, what holds a lot of people behind, is that they just want to be good at something right away. And that's almost impossible.
Yes. Yeah. You can't be afraid to fail, because failure, the word fail, I like to use as an acronym, first attempt in learning, right? It comes back to Jiu Jitsu again, right? You either win or learn. It's not win or lose, right? When I'm training, it's different for a tournament, right? You always want to win in your tournaments. But when I'm in class, when I'm just doing open mat, I can get submitted 15 times in a round, and it doesn't affect me like, oh, I just lost. I just got my butt kicked. I'm like, what did that person do to me? And how can I learn to either prevent it or learn how to do that better than that person? Like, it's all about learning and not letting those failures hold you back.
Absolutely. I've had that happen so many times to me.
Yeah.
Where even with the, someone that's not as skillful as me, right? Just kind of get me in a bad position because I was trying to work a technique for the first time.
Right.
Or at least do it live for the first time against a, very, very resisting opponent. And I made a mistake and they got me in, they passed my guard or got me in side control or something. Happens all the time.
Yep. That's it. If you're not failing, my theory is if you're not failing along the way, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
You're not giving it 100% because 100% means that you're not going to be perfect. This is one thing that I differ from with Andy because I've heard him talk about this as well. I'm a big fan of like progress over perfection. And, he's said multiple times like, oh, you got to just try to be perfect. I think he's also at a different level where, he's got different opinions, but progress involves failing. And by failing, you learn in order to become more perfect in what you're doing. So if you were to give advice to someone who said to you, hey, Sonny, you know what? I want to be a leader. I want to start my own business. I want to pursue my passion. What are the 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give that person?
I would, first off, I would tell them, do it. Absolutely. Right. You're going to live with regret for your whole entire life if you don't do it. I think that's what most people would probably say, but also I would tell that person, you have to be patient. I would say that patience is a huge, huge thing when it comes to starting anything. A lot of people, they want something to happen within a year, but that's almost unheard of. Obviously, there's outliers, but with most people, nothing will happen. You won't see anything amazing happen until 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 years down the road. So I would really make sure, be like, you got to be patient. And if you're not willing to be patient, this may not be the thing for you, and make sure that they're in it for the long haul.
So go for it. Pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
Be patient and make sure that you're committed to it.
Absolutely.
This isn't a flash in the pan.
Yeah. This isn't like a little bucket list check off,
I mean, how many people have you seen that fall into the opposite of what you just said? They're like, I'm going to try this. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh, I'm going to try this. And they're like on a hamster wheel.
Chris, I see it every single week. I see it every single week. I see everybody wants to, especially in my age group, right? And everybody knows the people I'm talking about. You got the 19, 20, 25-year-olds that are just like, I want to get rich quick, right? And they try all these things. They try not to talk bad on like e-commerce. They try like all these e-commerce things and they do it for, a month or two. And they're like, it's not making money. I can't do this. I'm like, you didn't even give it a clear shot.
Right.
They'll try like trading. Yeah, I'm going to trade. But then they do it for a month and they fall off. Right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They try all these get rich, quick things and it never works. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want to build like a real company. They just want to make a sale and never talk to that person ever again, which that's not my thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my age group, I see it all the time. Nobody wants to learn real skills that will build them, real company or a real income or any of that, man, or it won't change anybody's life.
So it's really like, a lot of times I talk about the difference between motivation and discipline. And, motivation is like the torque that gets a race car off the line, but discipline is the horsepower that keeps it going at 100 miles an hour throughout the entire race.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people with motivation because they're seeing shit on social media and they're like, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And 2 months later, they're like, well, on to something else. Is that a lack of discipline, do you think, on their end?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't have the discipline to stick with something. But I always look, I actually made a video about this the other day. I'm like, how is discipline created? Right?
Mhm.
A lot of people don't talk about that. Discipline's created through your purpose, right? When you look at your purpose, you stay disciplined. And
Yeah.
they start something without having a purpose. So you're never going to have discipline. You're
That's right.
relying straight up on motivation, which is very temporary,
Yes.
right? That's what we call good days, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah, they have a lack of purpose. That's all it is.
Yeah. So, look, I know we've been talking for a while, so I want to ask you one last question before we start to wrap things up. But what would you say, kind of overall, is your leadership philosophy?
Philosophy. Actually, I had to look this up, right? So, philosophy, right? That would be like democratic, kind of like transformational sort of deal, right? My biggest philosophy is just like transformation, kind of like similar to kind of like Andy's thing. He's trying to be like very transformational, very motivational. I would relate to that a lot, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to, get my team, my team meaning my students or my clients, all on the same sort of deal,
Mhm.
right? Giving them belief in themselves and belief in the message and the purpose that I'm trying to drive home. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just keeping it simple. I want to give belief to my team and give them a purpose. So I believe I choose that because that will tend to give, in my opinion, long-term results, right? It doesn't just like, get brushed under or people start to lose, start to go off the rails. They're just like, why am I doing this? I
Yep.
tell them, this is why we're doing this. We have a clear reason why, and you're a part of this, and that's the amazing opportunity. And they realize that's an amazing opportunity.
I love it. Purpose is so important. You've got to know why you're doing something. The why has to be bigger than you as an individual, and you know, being able to convey that to other people, because at the end of the day, as a leader, it's your job to convince others to buy into your vision, to come along with you. Um, you can't be pulling people, because then you're going to get resistance. But you've got to be transformational. You've got to be motivational. You've got to paint the picture of why we're doing this so that other people are like, yeah, I'm on board. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I love it. Um, any closing thoughts from you, Sonny, before we wrap it up for today?
I don't think so. We covered a pretty fair amount of material.
We did.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Um,
yeah, this is so much fun, being on here. Some
yeah,
amazing questions you asked as well.
I really appreciate you coming on, being a guest on the show. And, so as we wrap it up, everybody, if you got some nuggets of information out of today's show, please like it, please share it, please subscribe to the channel. Keep turning in for new content every single week, talking about leadership, broken down in a way that anyone can understand. With that, Sonny, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Lead on.